Morning, friends. So, welcome to Excel IAS Academy. So, first of all, I would like to congratulate you for opting this particular institution, which is an upcoming institution at the same time one of the best institutions in the city of Hyderabad. Now, before we go into that one, please put your mobiles in the silent mode. Right. So, you have taken a decision to prepare for UPSC. Now, before we go into the syllabus or else the criteria or else how to prepare for UPSC, first and foremost thing, what is the basic idea that you have related to UPSC? Any idea that you have related to Union Public Service Commission? Anything that you have an idea?
It's a most difficult.
The most difficult examination. Oh, okay, fine, good.
The various stages of examination.
The various stages. Okay. Then the moment you clear UPSC, then so to what positions or else to which post you can expect once you are clearing UPSC examination? What is a position or else what is a post that you can expect?
What are the services included? Almost 22 services.
You have got almost around
22 services.
22 services which are included in one particular examination. So starting from IAS 2, it goes even up to the case of your postal department also, IAS, IPS, IRS, IFS, and it goes up to the case of even the postal department also. Now, first and foremost thing, before you start your preparation for UPSC, the basic fundamental thing that you need to have an idea here. So the moment you're talking about the case of IAS, first and foremost thing, IAS here, it is a marathon. It is a long run, no doubt in that one. At the same time, slow, and any particular person who is having this particular ability, slow and steady, it always wins the race. And one more thing here is that you might lose hope. This is the most important factor here. So during your preparation for UPSC, now there is an utmost possibility that you may lose hope, but the thing is that you're not supposed to lose faith in yourself. So whenever you are preparing, whenever you are going through number of articles, number of things, number of stories, successful stories, or as against the failure stories. At the same time, whenever you are reading any particular discipline, any particular subject that you're talking about. So sometimes you may feel interest, sometimes you may get bored. But the thing is that you have to take it up as a challenge. It is not an easy task. At the same time, it is not an impossible task. It is not an impossible one. At the same time, it is not an easy task. Now, for example, suppose that if you talk about the case of the recent UPSC results, Chose under UPSC results. Now the topper, she has appeared for UPSC for 5th time. Right? 5th time that she has cleared. At the same time, not only cleared, she has stopped the UPSC examinations, which means that her preparation went almost for around 5 to 6 years on record. You can say that almost 6 years in the end. Now, when she started her preparation, we don't know. That may be around 7 years back or 8 years back, or else you can say that even right from graduation. We don't have any idea regarding that one. But on record, it is her 5th attempt. The first 3 attempts, she could not even clear prelims. And now in the 5th attempt, she has cleared mains, she has cleared interview. At the same time, she has even topped the UPSC. And in simple terms, you say that patience is the one that plays a very, very vital factor here. Opiga undali. Confidence, most important thing. This particular term, the faith in yourself, self-confidence is very, very important. Unfortunately, we see many people who are sitting in the classrooms, right, who come to the classroom for the first 6 months, 9 months, very seriously, right, turning each and every particular book, each and every particular paper, but at the end of the day, after 6 months, you find them starting losing interest. Reasons whatsoever. First and foremost thing, what you require here is dedication. That is what is more important. ఎట్టి పరిస్థితుల్లో కూడా క్లియర్ చేయగలగాలి. The dedication, consistency, more important thing, discipline is very much important. Right? Today you are starting your preparation. Today you are waking up around 4:30 in the morning and start your preparation. So you wake up around 4:30 in the morning for how many days? For 10 days, 15 days, 20 days. And or else after 1 month. Then after 1 month, at what time you are waking up? 5:30 in the morning. After 2 months from now, or else 3 months from now, you start waking up at 6:37 in the morning. It means that you are losing the discipline. You are lacking the determination. Am I right? Now, many of you might have heard about it. Either a particular thing, whenever you want to learn a new thing, or else whenever you want to inculcate a new habit, you should practice that for how many days? 21 days. But unfortunately, that is an old thing. 21 days కంటిన్యూస్గా మనం ఏదైనా ఒకటి ప్రాక్టీస్ చేస్తే మనకు అది అలవాటు అయిపోతుంది అనేది ఒకప్పుడు విషయం. అది ఇట్ ఇస్ నాట్ ద మోడర్న్ డేస్. ద మోడర్న్ డే సైకాలజిస్ట్ ఆర్ స్కేర్డ్ టు సే, ఐఎమ్ యూజింగ్ ద వర్డ్ స్కేర్డ్. ద మోడర్న్ డే సైకాలజిస్ట్ ఆర్ స్కేర్డ్ టు సే దట్ ఈవెన్ దో యు ఆర్ ప్రాక్టీసింగ్ ఎనీ పర్టిక్యులర్ న్యూ హ్యాబిట్, at least for 140 days, even then they are not confident that you will be able to inculcate that habit permanently. ఒకప్పుడు 21 days అన్నా, 21 days రెగ్యులర్గా మార్నింగ్ 4:30 లేసి వాకింగ్కి వెళ్తే 22nd డే ఆటోమేటిక్గా బాడీ విల్ టేక్ యువర్ మైండ్ విల్ టేక్. బట్ అది ఒకప్పుడు. ఈరోజు డేట్లో 140 days రెగ్యులర్గా చేసినా కూడా 141st డే లేదా 151st డే వాకింగ్కి లేసి వాకింగ్ వెళ్తామా లేదా అనేది ఒక క్వశ్చన్ మార్క్. అది ద రీజన్ ఫర్ దాట్ వన్. సో ద చేంజ్ ఇన్ ద బిహేవియర్ ఆఫ్ ద థింకింగ్. సో రీజన్స్ వాట్స్ ఎవర్. సో వన్స్ అపాన్ అ టైమ్ యువర్ థింకింగ్ వాజ్ డిఫరెంట్, అవర్ థింకింగ్ వాజ్ డిఫరెంట్, ద సర్కమ్స్టాన్సెస్ వర్ డిఫరెంట్, సిచ్యువేషన్స్ వర్ డిఫరెంట్, అండ్ టుడే whatever we are dealing with in the day-to-day life, it has changed completely. The priority for money has changed. At the same time, discipline, day by day discipline, many number of people you see, discipline is one thing which is lacking every day. Determination lacking, it is just coming down. So reasons whatsoever. Right. So with that particular note, I will start with the orientation for science and technology for the UPSC. So what is the way or as a pattern in which you are supposed to prepare for science and technology? So first and foremost question, one simple straight away question. Syllabus chusara. Have you gone through the syllabus for UPSC prelims? Forget mains. Have you gone through the syllabus for UPSC preliminary examination? No one. Right. So the moment you're talking about the case of the syllabus for the UPSC preliminary examination. Now this is the syllabus for the preliminary examination. Now here in this particular case, right. So you have got various topics which are here. So the very first thing, you start with your current events, the history of India, Indian geography, Indian polity, at the same time economic and social development, general issues on environment. Right. And here this is the one that I am going to deal with. Syllabus lo what is mentioned? General science only. Is science and technology mentioned in the syllabus? Syllabus lo ekkadaina science and technology అనే word or as the terms mention chesana cheyaledu. Right. So here in this case you have got history is mentioned here. Right. History is mentioned, geography is mentioned, polity is mentioned, economic and social development are mentioned, current events are mentioned, at the same time environment. But the thing is that at any particular point of time here in this particular case, there is no reference to science and technology. So what is mentioned here? General science is mentioned. Now, the moment you're talking about the case of general science, what are the subjects or as the disciplines that you are supposed to focus? జనరల్ సైన్స్లో ఏముంటాయి? జనరల్ సైన్స్ అంటే ఏంటి? ఇన్నోవేషన్స్, బేసిక్ సైన్స్. మరి ఎప్పుడైతే జనరల్ సైన్స్ అని అంటున్నావు, బేసిక్ సైన్స్ ఇన్ ద సెన్స్ యూర్ టాకింగ్ అబౌట్ ఫిజిక్స్, రైట్? సో యూర్ టాకింగ్ అబౌట్ ద కేస్ ఆఫ్ కెమిస్ట్రీ, అట్ ద సేమ్ టైమ్ యూర్ టాకింగ్ అబౌట్ biology. Now these three things in general we call them as the general science అని అంటాం. School level లో we talk about general science only in this particular way. మరి as of now, if at all you're talking about the case of UPSC preliminary examination, so is there any particular necessity or requirement for physics or chemistry? Physics చదవాల్సిన అవసరం ఉందా, కెమిస్ట్రీ చదవాల్సిన అవసరం ఉందా లేదా? ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఫస్ట్ థింగ్ హిస్టరీ ఉంది. Now the moment you're talking about the case of history, right? So in case of history, is there any particular requirement that you have to go through the school textbooks, particularly NCERT books చదవాల్సిన అవసరం ఉందా లేదా? NCERT 6 to 10th or as a case of 6 to 12 history చదవాల్సిన అవసరం ఉందా లేదా? చదవాలి. Polity చదవాలి. Geography, yes. Economy, yes. So it means that you are completing your complete social part. School social and పిలుస్తా ఉంటాం. And you are completing your history, geography, polity and economy from 6th to 12th class of the NCERTs. NCERTs, first thing you start your preparation with NCERTs related to all these particular four. Now the moment you're talking about the case of general science, is there any particular requirement that you need to go through what is there in 10th class science, particularly 10th class physics or 10th class chemistry? The answer is no. Even though it is mentioned as general science, keeping in view the last 10 to 14 years question papers of UPSC, 10 to 14 years of UPSC, there is no need for you people to study or else to prepare for physics or as the case of chemistry. NCERTs touch చేయాల్సిన అవసరం లేదు. There is no need for you to go through the NCERTs for physics and chemistry. I am talking particularly about physics and chemistry. History, geography, polity, economy ఖచ్చితంగా చదవాల్సిందే, no doubt in that. But the moment you're talking about the case of physics and chemistry, no need for that one. Now the question that comes here, what about the case of biology? So is there any need for us or else is there any need for you people to go through biology of 6th to 12th class and day? Answer is partially yes. I'm not saying yes totally. Because the moment you're talking about the case of biology, you're talking about different things. You talk about the case of the circulatory system, the human circulatory system, the human body. At the same time, you talk about the case of the plants, at the same time the animals, at the same time the circulatory system, the respiratory system, the nervous system. In all these particular living organisms. But for UPSC point of view, what we are supposed to read is that we need to study this particular biology with a special focus on diseases. Because as on today's date, we are speaking a lot about the different types of diseases. Right? Prati samvatsaram, or else you can even say for every 3 months or for every 6 months, we are hearing a new disease. That may be because of a disease can be because of a bacteria. A disease can be because of a virus. Now for example, we all have gone through corona, the COVID, right? So starting from March 2020 till major part of 2021, so many of us, we have taken the utmost precautions to stay at home, to stay safe. The reason for that one, we were scared of that particular virus which you call it as the coronavirus. Right? Particularly first phase lo inka jagrataga unna. To what extent ani annappudu even vegetables purchase chesaya kuda vaatni endalo bettaru chaala mandi. Avuna? Vegetables కావచ్చు లేదా కరెన్సీ నోట్లు కానివ్వండి, చాలా మంది కరెన్సీ నోట్స్ కూడా 500 నోట్స్ ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో 10 రూపీస్ నోట్స్, 500 రూపీస్ నోట్స్, వాటిని వాష్ చేసి నీళ్ళలో సబ్బు నీళ్ళలో నానబెట్టి దాన్ని ఎండబెట్టి వాడుకున్న రోజులు చాలా మంది ఉన్నారు. I don't know how many of you seen that. Right? At the same time, we have used, what is that? Sanitizers. Sanitizers use chesam, mask use chesam, number of things. Reason why we were scared of one particular disease. Now then after that one, the moment immediately we are done with the corona, we heard about one more thing, that is Mpox. Earlier it was known as monkeypox. Later it was referred as Mpox. So why the name was changed? That is one thing we should know. Monkeypox ni Mpox ni enduku pilcharu? Why the name was changed? At the same time, in case of your coronavirus, right, talk about the case of different variants. Something like alpha, beta, gamma, delta. All these are the different variants in case of the coronavirus. Now what are these particular things? What is the role of these things? అవి కాకుండా ఈ మధ్య కాలంలో లాస్ట్ 2 months or 3 months లో మనం చూసినట్లయితే తెలంగాణ ఏపీలో we are hearing about one particular disease in case of animals. What is that? Bird flu. Bird flu. మరి బర్డ్ ఫ్లూ గతంలో ఉందా లేదా? ఇన్ ద పాస్ట్ ఆల్సో బర్డ్ ఫ్లూ వాస్ దేర్. Now even the year 2025 also, particularly January 2025, Feb 2025, March 2025, we heard about bird flu. Now my question is that what is the difference between the earlier version of bird flu and this particular version? Different variant. Then symptoms ఎలా ఉన్నాయంటే earlier bird flu was found only in case of hen. To be more precise, only in case of birds. Now as on today's date, the version of 2025, the variant of 2025, it started spreading from birds to human beings. News చదివే ఉంటారు, చూసే ఉంటారు. I think a 2 years baby or 3 years baby, she has lost her life because of bird flu. The reason why? That particular girl of 2 years or 3 years, according to official reports, she had raw chicken తినింది కాబట్టి that particular girl passed away. Reasons whatsoever. Parents negligence అవన్నీ మనం ఇక్కడ మాట్లాడదలుచుకోలేదు. We are not bothered about that. But the thing is that a girl has lost her life because of the virus. And then the virus has started spreading from birds or else animals to human beings. Earlier it was confined only to animals. Now the disease started spreading even from birds to animals, from birds to human beings. Now there are few cases which are reported in United States wherein even the mammals got affected because of this particular bird flu. Mammals and particularly, you're talking about the case of cow, you're talking about the case of buffalo. The reason for that one, why I'm specifying about cow and buffalo, is that we use the milk products to a greater extent. Whether you talk about the case of Indians or any one particular one across the globe, whether we are using milk, either we are using paneer, or as a case of butter, or as a case of cheese, or as a case of any form of milk products. Now that is the reason why you are specifying about the case of mammals. And the earlier version of bird flu was different and the existing one is different. Why? Because the virus is undergoing mutations and enter. Now you need to study biology with special reference to the modern day, the present day existing diseases. That is the importance of biology. అంతేకాని ఎక్కడ కూడా cell biology కానీ molecular biology కానీ, or as a case of the tissues, or as the case of the human circulatory system, respiratory system, reproductive system, nervous system, వీటి గురించి డిస్కస్ చేయాల్సిన అవసరం లేదు. At the same time, బయోటెక్నాలజీలో వస్తున్న న్యూ డెవలప్మెంట్స్, biology linked with the biotechnology. Now for example, you're talking about the case of stem cell therapy అని అంటున్నాం. Bone marrow transplantation. Heard about bone marrow? Heard about bone marrow? Yes. What is the importance of bone marrow? Regenerate. So it plays a very, very vital role in generating the RBC, the blood cells. Now that particular bone marrow transplantation is also going on as on today's date. You're talking about the case of gene therapy. At the same time, you're talking about the case of the different, or else you're talking about the case of something like the new treatment, CAR T cell therapy. There is one more treatment which is related to the case of biotechnology, that is CAR T cell therapy. Now all these particular things which are related to the case of biotechnology. Now that is what you need to prepare for biology. So school level NCRTs particularly related to physics and chemistry ఇవి చదవాల్సిన అవసరం లేదు. Then now this is one particular analysis of the last few years. So you're talking about the case of the various disciplines here. Since I'm speaking about the case of science and technology, I haven't mentioned about other things here. So general science only, the number of questions the last 14 years you can say from 2011 till 2024. So if you can see that 18 questions, 13, 16, 16, right? So the last 5 years, 17, 12, 18, 15, 13, which means that on an average, we can say that roughly around 14 to 15 questions are expected, 14 to 15 questions are expected from general science. Syllabus lo general science mention chestundi. So syllabus lo ఉన్న general science గురించి చూసినట్లయితే on an average you can say something around 15 questions, 14 to 15 questions every year from science and technology. Mari, the moment you're talking about the case of this one, so how many questions you are expecting from each and every particular part of science and technology, general science, biology, physics, chemistry, science and technology. Now if you see the last few years, right, the number of questions, almost the last 5 to 10 years you can say, the number of questions from physics and chemistry, you can say almost equal to zero. Almost equal to zero. Right. At the same time, the number of questions from biology, right here in the year 2019, there was 1 question, 21 question, 2021, 1, 2017, 2 questions. At the same time, all these particular questions, they are related to directly or indirectly, they are either related to biotechnology or as a case of environmental chemistry అని అంటాం. సో ఎన్వైర్మెంటల్ బయాలజీ అని అంటాం. అలాగే కెమిస్ట్రీలో ఏదైనా క్వశ్చన్ వస్తే కూడా that particular one is directly related to the case of environmental science. Environmental science, for example, suppose that you are talking about the case of chlorofluorocarbons అని అంటాం. Chlorofluorocarbons అంటే it's not only chemistry మాత్రమే కాదు, it is related to the case of environmental science. At the same time, you are talking about the case of nitrogen cycle. It is not related to the case of biology or not related to the case of your chemistry alone, it is related even to environmental science also. You talk about nitrogen cycle, you talk about oxygen cycle, you talk about carbon cycle. Ivanni kuda we discuss all these particular things in case of environment. So anything that is a part of chemistry, anything that is a part of biology, either they are related to environment or else either they are related to the case of biotech. You're not getting a core question from chemistry directly, right? And the number of questions from the field of science and technology, you can see the number of questions almost, right, each and every particular year we are getting almost around 14 to 15 questions particularly from the field of science and technology. So conclusion ఏంటి అన్నప్పుడు ఈ రెండిటిపై ఫోకస్ చేయాల్సిన అవసరం లేదు. ఫిజిక్స్ అండ్ కెమిస్ట్రీ వాటిపైన ఫోకస్ చేయాల్సిన అవసరం లేదు. సో ఒక 1 or 2 టాపిక్స్ ఉన్నాయి. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ యూ టాక్ అబౌట్ న్యూక్లియర్ ఎనర్జీ అని అంటాం. న్యూక్లియర్ ఎనర్జీ. సో న్యూక్లియర్ ఎనర్జీకి బేస్ ఏంటి, వాట్ ఇస్ ద ఫండమెంటల్ థింగ్ అని అంటే యూ టాక్ అబౌట్ న్యూక్లియర్ ఫ్యూజన్, అండ్ దెన్ రేడియో యాక్టివిటీ. న్యూక్లియర్ ఎనర్జీ జనరేట్ అవ్వడానికి వీ హ్యావ్ గాట్ 3 things. One is fission, one is fusion, one is a case of radioactivity. మరి these 3 things, fission, fusion and radioactivity, modern physics లో చదివాం. We discuss that at school level of modern physics discuss చేస్తాం, or else even in chemistry లో కూడా we discuss చేస్తాం. But thing here is that we are upgrading that particular technology here, or else upgrading that particular knowledge in terms of science and technology. Right? Core physics you need not read. For example, core physics అంటే ఏంటి, లైట్ అని అంటాం, సౌండ్ అని అంటాం, ఎలక్ట్రిసిటీ అని అంటాం. We don't read all those things at this particular level as of now. Right. Now these are the number of questions that you are getting from science and technology. The last around you can say 10 to 14 years అని అంటాం. Now the question is that What are the topics that you need to prepare for UPSC preliminary examinations from the field of science and technology? Science and technology topic lo chadavalsina most important topics enti. Now these are the topics that you need to discuss. The very first one, you talk about science and technology in India. Right. Now, what do we discuss here? Now, this is one particular basic fundamental topic, science and technology in India. Mari India lo first and foremost thing, India lo science and technology eppudu nundi develop avadam start ayindi. The development of science and technology in India started from which particular period? Any idea? Rough picture at least. We can say something like 10 years back, 20 years back, 50 years or 100 years. From when the development of science and technology in India started? Approximate number.
Centuries ago. Used to follow some traditions which were related to science. Some traditions we use, which we follow.
Something like?
Mango leaves,
Very good.
cow dung and turmeric water.
Yes, very good, very good. So the moment you talk about the case of science, technology, its applications, we simply say that they are not new to India. They are not new to India. For example, now you might have heard about Rig Veda, Yajurveda and all those things. Upanishads, Vedas and Upanishads. Mari Vedas and Upanishads lo భూమి ఎలా ఉందని చెప్పారు? భూమి ఎలా ఉంది అని చెప్పారు? వేదాస్ అండ్ ఉపనిషత్ భూగోళము అనే వర్డ్ యూజ్ చేస్తారు. గోళం అంటే ఏంటి? స్పియర్. అంటే వేదాస్ ఉపనిషత్స్లోనే మనము సింప్లీ ఇట్ వాస్ మెన్షన్ దట్ ఎర్త్ ఈస్ స్పెరికల్ ఇన్ షేప్. సో ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ద మూమెంట్ యూ టాక్ అబౌట్ ద కేస్ ఆఫ్ యువర్ దీస్ పర్టికులర్ రిసర్చ్ స్కాలర్స్ గెలీలియో, టోలమీ, సో వీళ్ళ గురించి చూసినట్లయితే దే హ్యావ్ పుట్ ఫార్వర్డ్ దేర్ ఓన్ థియరీస్. Right, one is a case of your geocentric theory, one is a case of Herschel theory, different theories ఉన్నాయి. So first and foremost thing, it was assumed that earth was absolutely flat. Tarvata Galileo has proposed that earth is not flat, it is spherical అనేసి. But when did he propose అని అన్నప్పుడు it was almost around 17th century or so, 1700 or 1600. But prior to him, some thousands of years itself, it was mentioned in Vedas and Upanishads, earth is a sphere. భూగోళం అనే వర్డ్ యూజ్ చేశారు. అట్ ద సేమ్ టైం, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇఫ్ యూ టాక్ అబౌట్ కేస్ ఆఫ్ రామాయణం, మరి రామాయణంలో గాలిలో ఎగిరే ఆబ్జెక్ట్ ఉందా లేదా? గాలిలో ఎగిరే ఆబ్జెక్ట్ రామాయణంలో ఉందా లేదా? ఉంది. దాన్ని ఏమంటారు? పుష్పక విమానం. అంటే రామాయణ కాలంలోనే గాలిలో ఎగిరే ఆబ్జెక్ట్స్ దాన్ని ఎలా తయారు చేయాలి మనకు ఐడియా ఉంది, పుష్పక విమానము అని అంటారు. At the same time, ఇదే రామాయణ మహాభారతంలో ఆ పర్టికులర్ కాలంలో వెపన్స్ ఆఫ్ మాస్ డిస్ట్రక్షన్ ఉన్నాయా లేవా? వెపన్స్ ఆఫ్ మాస్ డిస్ట్రక్షన్ నంబర్ ఆఫ్ టైమ్స్ సినిమాలో చూస్తూ ఉంటాం మనం, రైట్? సో అర్జునుడు కానీ, సో కర్ణుడు కానీ అవేంటి బాణాలు ఎక్కి పెట్టగానే నారదముని వస్తాడు, ప్లీజ్ డోంట్ యూజ్ దిస్ అని చెప్తా ఉంటారు. నా ద క్వశ్చన్ ఇస్ దట్ ఏంటి అవి? వెపన్స్ ఆఫ్ మాస్ డిస్ట్రక్షన్. సో వాటిని ఆ పర్టికులర్ పీరియడ్లో దాన్ని బ్రహ్మాస్త్ర అని పిలిచారు, లేదా ఇంద్రాస్త్ర సంథింగ్ ఏదో పేర్లు పెట్టారు. కానీ సింపుల్గా ఈ రోజు డేట్లో టర్మినాలజీలో చెప్పినప్పుడు వీ కెన్ సింప్లీ యూజ్ వెపన్స్ ఆఫ్ మాస్ డిస్ట్రక్షన్ అని అంటాం, రైట్? మరి వెపన్స్ ఆఫ్ మాస్ డిస్ట్రక్షన్ అప్పట్లోనే మనకు తెలుసు. టుడే వీఆర్ డెవలపింగ్, సమ్ ఆఫ్ ద కంట్రీస్ హ్యావ్ డెవలప్డ్ అండ్ వీఆర్ స్టిల్ డెవలపింగ్. అట్ ద సేమ్ టైమ్ లాస్ట్ 1 వీక్లో చూసినట్లయితే ఇండియా ఈస్ కంటిన్యూస్లీ టెస్టింగ్ సమ్ వెపన్స్. చూసారా మొన్న ఐఎన్ఎస్ సూరత్, అరేబియన్ సీలో ఉన్న ఐఎన్ఎస్ సూరత్, యాజ్ ఆఫ్ నౌ ఇట్ హ్యాస్ దే హ్యావ్ టెస్టెడ్ వన్ పర్టికులర్ వెపన్. విచ్ వన్ ఇస్ దాట్? Which particular missile was tested in the recent times? A medium range surface to air missile was tested. And that particular specialty of that one is it can destroy a sea skimming target. The name was used, sea skimming target. Sea skimming target and suppose that any particular missile is launched by the enemy And that particular missile is traveling very close to the sea surface. In general, those particular missiles which are traveling very much close to the water surface, they cannot be identified by radars. But this particular INS Surat, it is one particular thing which we are calling it as a case of your stealth destroyer and yanta. So any particular missile which is traveling very much close to the surface of the sea, the radars which are present in that one can detect that one. Apart from that one, it can even destroy that particular thing. What they want to sea skimming targets and yanta. So INS Surat, they have tested one particular thing. At the same time, DRDO has recently tested a hypersonic engine, a missile which can travel with a speed of more than 5 times the velocity of sound. The velocity of sound is how much? 331 meters per second. So more than 5 times a year. And the missile can travel at a speed of almost around 1800, 2000, 3000 meters per second. Our particular technology in recent test chase. At the same time, as on today's, we're talking about different things which are in the news. You might have gone through all those things. So Ramayana Mahabharatam, we are talking about the case of object which flew in air. Apart from that one, weapons of mass destruction. And apart from that one simple thing. Kauravulu entamandi? Kauravulu entamandi? 100 plus 1. Mari, how did they take birth? Origin birth ela
Artificial incubator.
అప్పట్లో ఇంక్యుబేటర్స్ ఉన్నాయా? లేవు. సో వాడిని ఏమంటారు? మట్టి కుండల నుంచి పుట్టారు అని అంటారు. 100 + 1 100 100 + 1 మొత్తం 101 మట్టి కుండల నుంచి పుట్టారు. మరి ఆ టెక్నాలజీని ఈ రోజు డేట్లో ఏమని పిలుస్తున్నాం? IVF అని అంటాం, ICSI అని అంటాం. IVF or as a case of ICSI, సింపుల్ వాడుక భాషలో చెప్పినప్పుడు టెస్ట్ ట్యూబ్ బేబీస్ అని అంటాం. టెస్ట్ ట్యూబ్ బేబీస్. సో టెస్ట్ ట్యూబ్ ఆ వర్డ్ ఈరోజు డేట్లో యూజ్ చేయకుండా వీఆర్ గోయింగ్ ఫర్ ద వర్డ్స్ IVF or as a case of ICSI అనే వర్డ్స్ యూజ్ చేస్తున్నాం. అంటే the technology of artificial reproduction is not new to India. We knew it right from Mahabharata period. As your friend said, so ఎప్పటి నుండో ఫ్రమ్ సెంచరీస్ టుగెదర్ ఇంట్లో మనం ఫంక్షన్స్ ఉన్నాయి, మ్యారేజెస్ ఉన్నాయి, ఫస్ట్ ఏం చేస్తాం? గుమ్మానికి మామిడాకులు కడుతున్నాం. ద రీజన్ ఫర్ దాట్ వన్,
Releases oxygen.
రైట్, మామిడాకులే కడతాం, బాదాం చెట్టు ఆకులు కట్టం కదా. సో రీజన్ ఫర్ దాట్ వన్, ఇట్ రిలీజెస్ ఆక్సిజన్ టు ఏ గ్రేటర్ టైమ్ వెన్ కంపేర్డ్ టు అదర్ థింగ్స్. మోర్ ఇంపార్టెంట్ థింగ్, even after separating from the trees, చెట్లను separate చేసాక కూడా it keeps on releasing oxygen. That is the reason why mango leaves are used. At the same time, గడపకి ఏం యూజ్ చేస్తున్నాం? Phosphorus. ఎందుకు? యాంటీబయాటిక్. ఇట్స్ అన్ యాంటీబయాటిక్. అట్ ద సేమ్ టైం ఇంటి బయట ఆరు బయట ఏం చేస్తున్నాం? ఆవు పేడతో నీళ్ళు చల్లుతా ఉన్నాం. ద రీజన్ ఫర్ దాట్ వన్, క్రిమికీటకాలు ఏవి కూడా, పురుగులు ఏవి కూడా లోపలికి రాకుండా వీఆర్ యూజింగ్ దాట్ వన్. అట్ ద సేమ్ టైం అపార్ట్ ఫ్రమ్ దాట్ వన్, in the day-to-day life, we are using onions, we are using spices, lavangalu, ilachi, ivanni kuda use chestunam because all those particular things, simply you call them as the medicinal herbs ani antam. Now it is because of the usage of these particular things right from years together, our body is having a good immune system. Now that is one of the main reasons, primary reasons why the number of deaths that were recorded in India during the COVID was far less than expected. Far less than expected. Frankly speaking, it was expected in the initial stage, COVID early stage, it was expected that the number of deaths in India could be somewhere between 5 CR to 10 CR. How much? 5 CR to 10 CR. Why? Because we live close to, because we are densely populated. We are densely populated. You talk about the city of Mumbai, you talk about the case of your West Bengal. At the same time, the case of Hyderabad, density day by day is increasing. Right. So in these particular places, the disease, or as you can say, the virus will spread very rapidly. As a result of which, the number of deaths in India was expected somewhere between 5 CR to 10 CR. But unfortunately, it was very less. The reason for that, the immune system of the Indians. At the same time, you talk about one particular term which is known as herd immunity అని అంటాం. ఇండియాలో herd immunity levels it reached at a very earlier stage. First thing, herd immunity అంటే ఏంటి? దానికన్నా ముందు హర్డ్ అంటే ఏంటి? వాట్ యు మీన్ బై హర్డ్? గ్రూప్ మేకల మంద అని సింపుల్ చెప్పిన మేకల మంద అని అంటాం. నా హియర్ వి టాకింగ్ అబౌట్ కేస్ ఆఫ్ హ్యూమన్ బీయింగ్స్ కాబట్టి a group of people living at a particular place. Now suppose that if each and every particular person is having a good immune system, then in that particular case the effect of the virus from first person to second person will definitely subside, will definitely decrease, and from the second person to third person again it decreases. Why? Because the third person is having a good immune system, and from the third to fourth, the fourth is also having a good immune system, as a result of which the effect of virus will even more subside. That is what you're calling it as a herd immunity. Now this is the basic thing that we discuss here in case of first topic how the evolution of science and technology in India started. And then after that particular thing, we move on to one of the most important one in case of the first topic, that is the brain gain schemes. The brain gain schemes with different departments. So departments and now. So as on today's date, if you talk about the case of India, we have got 6 departments. One is the Department of Science and Technology. So apart from that one, so you have got the Department of Atomic Energy, the Department of Space, the Department of Ocean Development, the Department of Biotechnology, the Department of Scientific and Industrial Research. Totally, altogether we have got 6 departments. So these particular 6 departments are taking up various projects for the development of science and technology in India, almost in each and every particular walk of life. And here in this particular case, you're talking about the brain gain schemes. What are these particular schemes? For a simple example, India nundi as on today's date, the number of people who are migrating, is it increasing or decreasing? Increasing. Reasons? Better lifestyle, better opportunities, at the same time better education facilities. So citing all these particular reasons, the people are migrating away from India. So latest example ante last 3-4 days నుంచి ఒక వ్యక్తి న్యూస్లో ఉన్నారు, విరాట్ కోహ్లీ and Anushka Sharma, right? They are in the news. The reason for that one looks like they are going to migrate to UK, and reasons for that one, better facilities, better education system. That is the reason what they are showing. Reasons whatsoever. Now you're not talking about celebrities. I'm talking about the case of educated ones, research scholars, scientists. Why are they migrating? The same thing. Better opportunities, better lifestyle, better education, security, right? Protection to the intellectual property rights. Now the moment you're talking about the case of intellectual property rights, what do you mean by intellectual property rights? Intellectual property rights. Now for example, you're writing something, you're writing a novel, or else you're writing some poetry, or else you're describing the nature. So any sort of literature, it is a result of the human brain. The rights that we are claiming on these things, we call them as the intellectual property rights. Or else suppose that you have developed a new technology. For example, AP lo ninna, I think 15-20 days back, a kid is in news. A kid of around 15 years or 16 years, he is in news. The reason for that one, that particular kid, he has developed one particular app which can detect early heart attack. చూసే ఉంటారు, చదివే ఉంటారు. He has received appreciation even from AP CM Chandrababu Naidu also. The reason for that one, that particular mobile application, it is in a position to detect, which is based on artificial intelligence. A mobile application which is based on artificial intelligence, it is able to detect the early heart attack in any particular person. And a heart attack rakamunde, it is cautioning us. So అది మంచిదా చెడ్డదా, యూస్ఫుల్ నాట్ యూస్ఫుల్? యూస్ఫుల్. ఒకవేళ అది అందరూ యూస్ చేయగలిగితే, అది మొత్తం ఫుల్ ప్రూఫ్ అయి ఉండి సెక్యూరిటీ వైజ్ కరెక్ట్గా ఉన్నట్లయితే, దెన్ ఇన్ దాట్ పర్టికులర్ కేస్ ఇండియాలో నెంబర్ ఆఫ్ డెత్స్ ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో ఇట్ కెన్ రెడ్యూస్ టు ఎ వెరీ గ్రేటర్ ఎక్స్టెంట్. As on today's date, the maximum number of deaths in India, they are taking place because of one thing which are calling it as heart attack మూలంగానే number of deaths అనేవి చాలా ఎక్కువగా ఉన్నాయి in India. Reasons whatsoever.
It's a stress.
స్ట్రెస్ కావచ్చు, కోవిడ్ ఇంపాక్ట్ ఒకటి ఉందమ్మా. ఈ లాస్ట్ 3 years నుంచి చూసినట్లయితే కోవిడ్ వ్యాక్సినేషన్ తర్వాత హార్ట్ అటాక్ కేసెస్ అనేవి ఇంక్రీజ్ అయ్యాయి. అట్ ద సేమ్ టైం ఇప్పుడు ఈ మధ్య కాలంలో జరుగుతున్న హార్ట్ అటాక్స్ అన్నీ కూడా సడన్. అట్ ద సేమ్ టైం ఫస్ట్ స్ట్రోక్లోనే ద పీపుల్ ఆర్ లూజింగ్ దేర్ లైఫ్స్ అండ్
Very age.
at a very young age, particularly the age of around you can say 35 to 50 years, ఈ పర్టికులర్ ఏజ్లో ఉన్న వాళ్ళు, at the same time any particular person without any sort of medical history also, they are losing their life because of the cardiac arrest. And it is said that it is because of the negative effects of the vaccination. Even DGCA has accepted that vaccination is having negative effects on, and government would accept it. At the same time, the Drug Control Authority of India, even they have accepted it, that COVID vaccination will definitely have some certain amount of negative effects on it. And that is what we discuss here, the basic fundamental things. At the same time, the government schemes, right? So, for example, you talk about one particular scheme which is very popular these days, that is Atal Innovation Mission. So recently AIM 2.0 has been announced, Atal Innovation Missions, at the same time Atal Tinkering Labs. Now what are these particular missions? At the same time, why these particular missions have been initiated? Right. Apart from that one, you talk about the case of a particular program like Prithvi Vignan Scheme ani anta. Now what is this particular Prithvi Vignan Scheme? What is the importance of this one? At the same time, which particular department or else which particular ministry has taken up this particular missions? Now that is what we discussed in the very first topic, that is the unit 1. Right, the basic things. Apart from that one, as on today's date, the developments which are taking place in the field of science and technology. Then after that, you talk about the case of the energy sector, the most important one as on today's date. A burning topic, we can say that. The reason for that one, energy is one particular sector wherein there is a huge amount of developments which are taking place very, very rapidly. Now, for example, energy as on today's date, the main source of energy in India even today is coal. 60% of the energy in India is obtained from coal. So apart from coal, we have got the hydroelectricity. Apart from that one, we are having solar. We are even having wind energy also. Mari solar energy contribution enta, wind energy contribution enta. Solar energy increase cheyadaniki the government of India has taken up various projects. Okati cheppandi, the recent initiatives by the central government to promote solar energy. In the recent times, have you visited any bank? Either a bank ki vellara, particularly the nationalized banks, something like the case of SBI or as a case of Canara Bank or as a case of Union Bank. Almost ప్రతి ఒక్క బ్యాంక్లో కూడా as on today's date we find one advertisement, Pradhan Mantri Har Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana. This is one particular scheme which was announced by the central government last year, Pradhan Mantri Har Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana. Now what is that particular scheme related to? The main objective of that particular program is to provide rooftop solar solutions. మన ఇంటి పైన సోలార్ ప్యానల్ పెట్టుకోవాలి. Now for that particular thing, government will provide you some subsidy and the 50% subsidy. మా remaining 50% ఎలా కట్టాలి? For that particular thing, bank will provide you loan. at a very, very nominal rate. Very, very nominal rate. Right? మనం తీసుకునే పర్సనల్ లోన్లో 50% rate of interest తోటి they are giving the loans. And the tenure is also very much high, almost around 7 to 10 years. You take a loan of 1 lakh rupees and that particular 1 lakh rupees you can pay that in a period of around 7 to 10 years. Very high period. In general, suppose that if any person is taking personal loan from any bank, he has to repay that in 36 months, 3 years. But in this particular case, you are repaying that one in a period of around 7 to 10 years. Apart from that one, whatever is the energy that you are generating in excess, for example, every day you are generating some 100 watts or 200 watts. Out of that, you are consuming only 50. And the excess amount of energy can be sold to the state government. Now, when you are selling that one to the state government, are you making any revenue out of that? Yes? And it is beneficial to the customer? Yes. Apart from that, is it beneficial to the environment? Because we are not depending upon the coal anymore. So we are making the environment clean. We are contributing for the mother environment. Apart from that one, you are trying to make revenue out of that one also. So energy sector is the one thing which is in news to a very greater extent as on today's date. Apart from that one, there is one particular concept which is in news, that is battery energy storage system. Chala ekkuva news lo undi. Battery energy storage system ani antam. Now what is this one? Battery energy storage system ani antam. What is this? Now for example, suppose that you talk about the case of any particular village. Right, for example, you're talking about the case of one particular village, that is Baisanwaripalle. Now this particular village, it is in Chittoor district of AP. Now why this particular village ani ante? This is the first solar village in India. First solar village in India. But the thing is that as on today's date, this particular solar village, it is no more considered as the first solar village in India. The reason for that one, right, in the state of Gujarat, there is one more village, right, and that particular village as on today's date, it is 24/7, 365 days powered by the solar energy. మరి బైసన్వారిపల్లి అలాగే గుజరాత్లో ఉన్న విలేజ్కి డిఫరెన్స్ ఏంటి అని అన్నప్పుడు, బైసన్వారిపల్లి ఈ పర్టికులర్ విలేజ్లో సమ్మర్ సీజన్లో ఓన్లీ ఎండాకాలంలో మాత్రమే వాట్ ఎవర్ ద ఎనర్జీ దట్ దే జనరేటెడ్ దే యూస్ త్రూఅవుట్ ద విలేజ్. బట్ బై ద టైమ్ ఆఫ్ ద రెయినీ సీజన్ ఆర్ ఎస్ ద కేస్ ఆఫ్ వింటర్ సీజన్, now we know that rainy season, winter season, we cannot generate huge amount of solar energy. At that particular point of time, they started utilizing energy generated from coal and hybrid model. Endakalamlo solar energy, rainy season, winter season ragane energy based from coal or as a case of hydroelectricity. Hybrid model used chesaru. But this particular village in the state of Gujarat, it is 24/7, 365 days completely powered by the solar. So how it is possible? Mari rainy season lo how they are able to generate energy, winter season lo how they are able to generate energy ani ante, whatever is the excess amount of energy generated in the summer season lo prati okkaru kuda 100 watts generate chestunaru. ఈ 100 watts లో they are utilizing only 50 watts. ఎంత మిగిలిపోయింది? 50 మిగిలిపోయింది. ఆ 50ని they are storing that one. Where they are storing? బ్యాటరీస్లో స్టోర్ చేస్తున్నారు. ఇప్పుడు మన ఇంట్లో కూడా ఇన్వర్టర్లో బ్యాటరీ ఉంటుంది. మరి ఆ బ్యాటరీ కెపాసిటీ ఎంత? స్మాల్ సైజ్. అంటే బ్యాటరీలో స్టోర్ చేసిన ఎనర్జీని, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ యాజ్ ఆఫ్ నౌ మనము ఉన్న ఇంట్లో ఇన్వర్టర్ గురించి మాట్లాడదాం. రైట్, బ్యాటరీ బ్యాకప్ ఎన్ని గంటలు వస్తుంది? మ్యాక్సిమం హాఫ్ డే. అది కూడా ఎలా? జాగ్రత్తగా పొదుపుగా వాడితే, ఏ రూమ్లో ఉంటే ఆ రూమ్లో లైట్ ఫ్యాన్ వేసుకుంటే అలా ఉంటే డిపెండింగ్ ఆన్ ద యూసేజ్ మనకు వస్తుంది. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ పవర్ పోయాక కిచెన్లో మనం మిక్సీ ఆన్ చేస్తాం, విత్ ఇన్ 2 hours or 3 hours right, you will not have any amount of power. So there in that particular case, manam use chestunna batteries lo storage capacity is very less. So this is one particular system which are calling it as the battery energy storage system, wherein you are in a position to generate, wherein you are in a position to save energy in megawatt hour scale. You're not talking about the case of your 1 watt, 10 watts, 100 watts, you're talking about the case of megawatt. Megawatt in the sense, you're talking about 10 power 6 watts. So that is the amount of energy that can be stored in this particular system, which are calling it as the battery energy storage system. Now, for storing this much amount of energy, we need to have an updated technology kavali. We need to have an updated technology. Now, there are some startups in India which are having technology. But the thing is that these particular companies, these particular startups, they are not in a position to manufacture those particular batteries. They have the technology, but the thing is that they are not in a position to manufacture that one. The reason for that one, lack of financial resources. They are not in a position to have a big setup. They are not in a position to employ more amount of labor. They are not in a position to have good machineries or as a large number of machinery. The reason for that one, their particular financial capacity is less. That is the reason why the central government has initiated one particular funding which is known as viability gap funding ani anta. Viability gap funding. Now this particular scheme, viability gap funding, will be applied for all those particular startups in India which have the potential to generate, which have the potential to manufacture any particular thing which is related to space technology, any particular thing which is related to defense technology, any particular thing which is related to the energy sector. Startup company ye field aina kavachu. They have the talent, they have the potential, they have the technology, but they are lacking in financial resources. So for that particular thing, the government of India will provide funds for them through one particular scheme which is known as the viability gap funding, so that those particular startup companies, they can increase their capacity, so that they can increase their potential in the field of space or defense or as a case of energy sector. The scheme is known as the case of viability gap funding in India. Now that is one thing. At the same time, so these days one more thing is coming into news, that is biofuels అని అంటాం. బయోఫ్యూయల్స్ చాలా ఎక్కువగా వింటా ఉన్నాం. బయోఫ్యూయల్స్ కొత్తగా ఏదైనా బైక్ మీరు పర్చేస్ చేసిన లాస్ట్ 2 months or 3 months or 6 months, right, flex fuel, we'll talk about that later, right. So a petrol tank, when you are finding a small sticker on that one. Very good. E20. Only E20 మాత్రమే ఉందా లేదా ఇంకా దానికి ముందు తర్వాత ఏదైనా వర్డ్ యాడ్ చేస్తుందా? అప్ టు E20 అని ఉంటుంది. గ్రేటర్ దాన్ కదా, అప్ టు E20 అని ఉంటుంది. E20 అక్షరాలు పెద్దగా ఉంటాయి, దానిపైన చిన్నగా అప్ టు E20 అని రాసి ఉంటుంది. మరి వాట్ ఈస్ దట్ E20? ఇథనాల్ పర్సంటేజ్ గురించి మనం డిస్కస్ చేస్తాం. సో ఈ రోజు డేట్లో మనం పర్చేస్ చేస్తున్న, దట్ ఈస్ ఐఎమ్ టాకింగ్ అబౌట్ ద టుడేస్ డేట్, ఈ రోజు డేట్లో మనం పర్చేస్ చేస్తున్న పెట్రోల్ ఏదైతే ఉందో, నౌ ఇస్ ఇట్ 100% ప్యూర్ పెట్రోల్? నో. సో పెట్రోల్ బ్లెండెడ్ విత్ ఇథనాల్, పెట్రోల్ బ్లెండెడ్ విత్ మిక్స్డ్ విత్ ఇథనాల్. వాట్ రేషియో అని అన్నప్పుడు 90:10. 90% పెట్రోల్, 10% ఆఫ్ ఇథైల్ ఆల్కహాల్ లేదా ఇథనాల్ అని అంటాం. 90% of petrol and 10% of ethanol. And the target is by the end of this particular year, that should increase to 80% petrol and 20% ethanol. మరి ఇలా చేస్తే మనకు అడ్వాంటేజా డిసడ్వాంటేజా? 80% పెట్రోల్ అండ్ 20% ఇథనాల్ అని అంటున్నాం. అంటే పెట్రోల్ పర్సంటేజ్ తగ్గిస్తూ వస్తున్నాం, ఇథనాల్ పర్సంటేజ్ ఏం చేస్తున్నాం? ఇంక్రీజ్ చేస్తున్నాం. మరి ఇథనాల్ పర్సంటేజ్ ఇంక్రీజ్ చేసినప్పుడు పెట్రోల్ డిక్రీజ్ చేయాలి. మళ్ళీ పెట్రోల్ పర్సెంటేజ్ డిక్రీజ్ చేస్తున్నప్పుడు ఇట్ ఈస్ a good option for Indian economy or not? Yes. The reason for that one, we are importing crude oil from different countries. That may be the case of Russia, that may be the case of Iran, for that matter any particular country. So once upon a time we are using, or else we were importing 100 barrels. Now we can import only 80 barrels, which means that we are in a position to save an economy related to 20 barrels every day. Apart from that one, what we are using ethanol. మరి ఇథనాల్ యూస్ చేస్తున్నప్పుడు ఇథనాల్ ప్రొడక్షన్, ఇథనాల్ సోర్స్ ఏంటి? ఇథనాల్కి సోర్స్ ఏంటి? ఫ్రమ్ వేర్ వీఆర్ ఆబ్టైనింగ్ ఇథనాల్? వీఆర్ ఆబ్టైనింగ్ ఇథనాల్ ఫ్రమ్ షుగర్ కేన్, స్వీట్ పొటాటో, స్వీట్ కార్న్, maize, barley, broken rice, rotten grains, right? Agricultural products. So through one process which is known as fermentation. Right, the carbohydrates which are obtained from all these particular things, when they are allowed for fermentation, ethanol is obtained. Now we know that India is an agricultural based economy, agricultural based country. Now when you are using 20% ethanol, it means that you are promoting sugarcane production in India on a larger scale. Sweet corn, sweet potato, or in the case of barley production on a larger scale, it means that you are promoting circular economy. You are encouraging the circular economy, at the same time you are trying to reduce the imports. That is the reason why we are focusing on biofuels. That is one advantage. Second advantage, India carbon emissions can be mitigated, carbon emissions can be reduced on a larger scale. That is the reason why we are promoting these particular biofuels. So as on today's date, we are focusing a lot on E20, and the target is you are talking about the case of E100. This is the target. That is the target. E100 and E100. So E100 lo first and foremost thing, ethanol will not be used 100% use cheyamu. E20 lo em chestunnamo 20% ethanol, 80% petrol annam. And the moment you're talking about the case of E100, we are not going to use 100% ethanol. We are going to use ethanol only up to 92 to 94%. 92 to 94%. Then what about the remaining 6% ani annappudu? We will be using motor spirit, around 1 to 2% motor spirit. The reason for that one, the fuel has to ignite. Car button press cheyagane fuel has to ignite. So for that particular thing we are using the motor spirit. And apart from that one, motor spirit and ethanol rendu kuda homogeneous mixture ga erpadali. For that particular thing we are using a co-solvent. And that is the target E100. So apart from that one, you are talking about the case of green hydrogen. Vinnara? Green hydrogen based trains will be introduced in India mostly by the end of 2025, or else the early part or as the mid part of 2026. The trains which will be fueled by green hydrogen. That is one more concept that you're talking about. At the same time, flex fuel, that is one more concept that you're talking about. Alage hydrogen fuel cells, microbial fuel cells. What are these particular hydrogen fuel cells? What are these particular microbial fuel cells? That is what we'll be discussing in this particular topic, which are calling it as energy. And apart from that one, energy topic, there is one more thing which is known as the nuclear energy. Nuclear energy, we'll talk about fission. What is fission? What is fusion? At the same time, ఈ మధ్య కాలంలో చాలా ఎక్కువగా న్యూస్లో ఉన్న small modular reactors, at the same time Bharat stage reactors చాలా ఎక్కువగా న్యూస్లో ఉన్నాయి. SMR, small modular reactors. Now the difference between the small modular reactors and the traditional reactors ఏంటి అన్నప్పుడు, these can be constructed in a very short span of time. At the same time, these particular modular reactors అని అంటున్నాం. Modular reactors in the sense you are fabricating at one particular place, installing at one particular place. అంటే మీనింగ్ ఏంటి? ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ హైదరాబాద్లో మెట్రో పిల్లర్స్ ఉన్నాయి. సో మెట్రో పిల్లర్స్ ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో వీటిని అక్కడే కన్స్ట్రక్ట్ చేస్తున్నారా, లేదా ఒక దగ్గర కన్స్ట్రక్ట్ చేసి వాటిని ఇంకో దగ్గర ప్లాంట్ చేస్తున్నారా? వేరే దగ్గర పిల్లర్స్ని మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చర్ చేసి వాటిని ఇంకో దగ్గర అసెంబుల్ చేస్తున్నారు. ద సేమ్ ఈజ్ ద కేస్ ఆఫ్ దీస్ పర్టికులర్ స్మాల్ మోడ్యులర్ రియాక్టర్స్. దే ఆర్ manufactured at one particular place, fabricated at one particular place, and they are installed at one particular place. That is the advantage of the small modular reactors. ఇవి ఎక్కువగా న్యూస్లో ఉన్నాయి. At the same time, more important thing in case of nuclear energy is that in case of nuclear energy, private sector participation is also encouraged in India as on today's date. Till the year 2023, you can say that, or as 24, the private sector participation in case of nuclear energy was equal to 0. But from this particular year, the government is even encouraging the private companies, the private sector to generate energy from the nuclear reactors. Then you move on to the third topic here, space science or as a case of space technology. మరి స్పేస్కి సంబంధించి ఈ మధ్య కాలంలో ఉన్న మోస్ట్ ఇంపార్టెంట్ అప్డేట్స్ స్పేడెక్స్. రిలేటివ్ టు ఇస్రో స్పేడెక్స్. స్పేడెక్స్లో డాకింగ్ అనే వర్డ్ ఒకటి యూస్ చేసాం. రైట్, ద ఫస్ట్ పార్ట్ ఆఫ్ జనవరి డాకింగ్ వాస్ కండక్టెడ్ సక్సెస్ఫుల్లీ, అండ్ ఈవెన్ అరౌండ్ 1 week or 10 days back also డాకింగ్ వాస్ కండక్టెడ్ ఫర్ ద సెకండ్ టైమ్ successfully. That is one thing which is in news. What is SpaceX? At the same time, apart from that one, Bharat Antariksha Kendra, even that particular thing is also in news to a very greater extent. So for example, we have got this particular International Space Station. Yes? న్యూస్లో ఉందా లేదా ఈ మధ్య కాలంలో? Why it is in news? IWS ఎందుకు న్యూస్లో ఉంది? About to retire ఒకటి, okay fine. The successful return of the crew from IWS after almost around 8 months or 9 months, they have successfully returned. Right, Sunita Williams and the complete team, they have successfully returned after almost around 9 months. That is the reason why IWS is in news. Now the question is that who are the members of IWS? US, Russia, Japan, France unna. So IWS lo members, first thing NASA. Second, the Canadian Space Agency. Third, Roscosmos, nothing but Russian Space Agency. Fourth, European Space Agency. France is not, complete Europe. Right, and then JAXA, Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency. China is not a part of IWS. China, they are having their own space station, Tianhe 2. That is their own space station. And we are planning our own space station by 2034 or 2035. The work for that one will be initiated mostly by 2030. Mari, Indian space station known as Bharat Antariksha Kendra. For that particular thing, the one basic simple step in India is SpaceX anedi, docking anedi very very important. So that is the reason why. So SpaceX test kavachu, or in the case of ISRO, is in news for all the reasons these days. Right. Apart from that one, we are talking about the case of launch vehicles. PSLV winner, GSLV winner, SSLV. Right. So these are the things which are in the news. Can ivi kaakunda PSLV, GSLV, SSLV, LVM-3, launch vehicle Mark 3, ivi kaakunda there is one more particular launch vehicle which will be launched soon. A new variant, a new version of the launch vehicle will be launched soon. Now what is that? What are the specifications of that one? So how it is going to be beneficial for ISRO? That is what we need to discuss in case of space science or space technology. Now coming to the case of communication, IT and artificial intelligence. Now as on today's date, the complete world is based on moving on one particular thing which is known as AI and now. Right, one application of artificial intelligence. Automations. ఇంకా మనం యూస్ చేస్తున్నాం, మీరు కానీ నేను కానీ. వెరీ గుడ్, చాట్ జీపీటీ అనేది ఒక చాట్ బాట్ అని అంటాం. రైట్, సో చాట్ బాట్స్ ఏమేమి ఉన్నాయి? ఫెమిలియర్ చాట్ బాట్స్, ఒకటి చాట్ జీపీటీ, ఒకటి చాట్ బాట్, ఇంకా జెమినీ బై గూగుల్. సో గూగుల్ జెమినీ కానివ్వండి, ఆర్ ఇస్ ద కేస్ ఆఫ్ చాట్ జీపీటీ కావచ్చు,
DeepSeek, China,
DeepSeek,
డీప్ సీ,
Grok,
ఇంకా
Grok,
ఓకే క్లాగ్ అండ్ ఎనీథింగ్ ఎల్స్. సో దెర్ ఈస్ వన్ మోర్ థింగ్ బై మైక్రోసాఫ్ట్ ఎడ్జ్.
Copilot, Bing.
Bing is a search engine.
Copilot is
Right. It's not Copilot, it's Capilot. Capilot అని అంటాం. Capilot is a chat GPT. It's a chatbot. At the same time, Gemini by Google, it is a chatbot. At the same time, we're talking about the case of this one, that is the chat GPT. Right. Now the question is that search engines ఏమేమి ఉన్నాయి? Google is a search engine. Safari is a search engine. It's a browser, I suppose, right? Safari is a browser. Google is a search engine. Yahoo is a search engine. At the same time, Bing is also a search engine. Firefox is again a browser. Safari, Opera, Mozilla Firefox, at the same time Microsoft Edge, Google Chrome, ఇవన్నీ కూడా బ్రౌజర్స్. ఇవన్నీ కూడా మనం సెర్చ్ చేయాలి అంటే గూగుల్లోకి వెళ్దాం. ఇప్పుడు మీరు ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఫైర్ఫాక్స్ ఓపెన్ చేశారు. ఫైర్ఫాక్స్ ఓపెన్ చేస్తే మళ్ళీ అగైన్ గూగుల్ ఎంటర్ చేస్తారా లేదా? అగైన్ యూ ఎంటర్ google.com అంటాం. అంటే గూగుల్ is a search engine. Safari, Opera, at the same time the case of your Mozilla Firefox, ఇవన్నీ కూడా browsers. Yahoo, Google, at the same time the case of Bing, these are the search engines అని అంటాం. Right. Now the question is that the moment you talk about the case of chatbots, so chatbots కి నెగటివ్ సైడ్స్ ఏమైనా ఉన్నాయా?
access too much information.
They're accessing more information than they are required, and that is one particular negative aspect of chatbots and antam. Other negative aspect of chatbot is that these particular chatbots are exhibiting, or else they are displaying, racial discrimination. Now that is one particular thing, racial discrimination. So how it is possible for these particular chatbots to show racial discrimination and based on the IP address? Chat GPT use చేస్తున్నాం. So each and every particular mobile, each and every particular device is having its own internet protocol, IP address. And the moment you are asking any particular question to the chatbot, whether it is a Chat GPT or is a case of Gemini, right? So based on the IP address, they are giving the answers. It means that they are showing the racial discrimination. That is one particular negative thing of these particular chatbots. At the same time, the answers which are provided by these particular chatbots, sometimes they are very much repetitive. The reason for that one, suppose that if you are asking any particular question, and if this particular chatbot does not understand that, in that particular case, what it is giving, whatever it has understood, it is giving the answer based on that particular thing. Right? Suppose you are not pronouncing properly. Then in that particular case, based on whatever it has understood, it is providing us the information. At the same time, the basic difference between ChatGPT and the case of Google Gemini is that ChatGPT, it can understand any particular information in the form of text, in the form of audio. Right? So that is the latest thing. That is what you call as Ghibli. ChatGPT application is a Ghibli. Right? So basic difference in India and Nabdo, ChatGPT can understand any information in the form of text or as the case of audio. And recent thing, or almost 15 days or 1 month back, Ghibli has started coming. But the moment you talk about the case of Gemini advantage in terms of it can understand any information in the form of text, audio, image, or as a case of video also. That is in case of the Gemini. Mari, what are these two things based on? How they are working, how they are operating in Nabdo? These two things, whether you talk about a case of ChatGPT or as a case of Capilot or as a case of Google Gemini, they are based on large language models, LLMs ani antam. And it means that these particular chatbots, they are having the complete information. So from where they are acquiring the information? So they are acquiring the information from Wikipedia. They are acquiring the information from Britannica. At the same time, they are gaining the knowledge from our particular, in general, the text messages or as the case of any sort of conversations, at the same time digital text. Any particular textbook in the digital format. So వీటన్నిటిలో information అంతా కూడా that is provided by that is provided or that is given to ChatGPT or as the case of Google Gemini అని అంటాం. So as on today's date we are relying a lot upon this particular artificial intelligence. And the other upcoming feature of this particular thing is that generative AI అనేది ఒకటి వస్తుంది. Generative artificial, that is a new feature in case of your artificial intelligence. The moment this particular generative AI is developed full-fledged, it looks like we the human beings are going to have some problems. The reason for that one, ఏఐలో ఉన్న ఒక డిఫెక్ట్ ఏంటి అని అన్నప్పుడు చాట్ జీపీటీ కావచ్చు, గూగుల్ జెమినీ కావచ్చు, వన్ డ్రాబ్యాక్ ఏంటి అన్నప్పుడు దే హ్యావ్ గాట్ లెస్ అమౌంట్ ఆఫ్ రీజనింగ్ స్కిల్స్. అండ్ దాట్ పర్టికులర్ డ్రాబ్యాక్ ఈజ్ ఓవర్కమ్డ్ బై generative AI. They start thinking, they start analyzing. At the same time, these particular AI-based devices are in a position to perform any sort of cognitive task which we are in a position to do. And something like thinking. Something like thinking. So machines are able to think. Machines are able to perform any particular task in a better way, in a less amount of time when compared to the case of human beings. And that is what you call it as a case of AI. So what is that one? We'll be discussing that one here. At the same time, the defense technology. So defense and the last 1 week news Tuesday, you'll be able to come across the different developments in the field of defense. For example, you talk about AK-47s. అవునా? AK-47s. ఇప్పుడు మొన్న ఇక్కడ సో పహల్గామ్లో జరిగిన ఇన్సిడెంట్లో AK-47 యూజ్ చేశారు. అండ్ ఎనీథింగ్ ఎల్స్ అపార్ట్ ఫ్రమ్ దాట్? What is that M4? Is it a weapon or else it is a magazine? Difference idea on that. Magazine and enti? The place where the bullets are stored or held, that is what you call it the magazine. And the specialty of that one is it can fire 100 bullets in 1 minute. That is a US based M4 magazine. It can push or else it can trigger almost around 100 bullets in one particular minute. 60 seconds slow, it is able to release 100 bullets. At the same time, we're talking about the case of last 1 week, statistics వస్తూ ఉన్నాయి. So, India submarines ఉన్నాయా లేవా? Yes, we are having submarines. Pakistan submarines ఉన్నాయా లేవా? Yes, they are also having submarines. At the same time, aircraft carriers. మన దగ్గర 2 ఉన్నాయి, వాళ్ళ దగ్గర 0. At the same time, the strength of Indian army, the strength of Pakistan army, the fighter planes that we are having, the fighter planes that they are having. Right, we are having complete statistics related to these particular things. And apart from that one, again the Rafale fighter planes, again they are in use. Because Rafale fighter planes almost around 7 years back we purchased that one from France. And again in the recent times, almost around 1 month back, there was again a deal between India and France related to the case of Rafale fighter planes. Now, what are these particular Rafale fighter planes? What is the importance of these things? 5th generation. At the same time, Apache, you have got one particular helicopter, Apache Chinook helicopters. The helicopters which we are importing from United States. S-400 defense system, which we have imported from Russia. At the same time, Iron Dome technology, developed by Israel. ఎక్కువగా న్యూస్లో ఉంది. As on today's date, Tuesday, the most successful defense technology across the globe is this particular Iron Dome technology, Sea Dome technology. Iron Dome undi, Sea Dome undi. Right. So what are these particular technologies? At the same time, manam develop చేసిన technologies ఏంటి? So that is what we discuss in case of defense technology. And then the other units related to the case of your preliminary examination. Intellectual property rights. So for example, heard about these things in Madhya Kalamlo, GI tax, geographical indications. Vinnara in Madhya Kalamlo. So, any item in the recent times which has been allotted the GA tag.
Warangal Mirchi.
Varangal, right? Mirchi. Now, what is the reason why it has been allotted the GA tag?
It's the spiciest one and oldest one which is cultivated.
Yes. At the same time, around 1 year back, one item from Tandoor. Tandoor tells the Vikarabad దగ్గర Tandoor ఉంది. Red gram, కందిపప్పు అని అంటాం. Even that particular thing has received the GA tag. Last year, చార్మార్ దగ్గర తయారు చేసే లాక్ బ్యాంగిల్స్, తెలుగు లక్క బ్యాంగిల్స్ అని అంటారు. ఇంట్లో చూసే ఉంటారు, అమ్మ వాళ్ళు వేసుకుంటూ ఉంటారు బ్యాంగిల్స్ ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయి, మట్టి గాజులు అంటారు. తెలుగులో చెప్పినప్పుడు మట్టి గాజులు అంటాం. కింద పడితే విరిగిపోతూ ఉంటాయి. వాటిని లాక్ బ్యాంగిల్స్ అంటారు. Now even that particular thing has received the GA tag. Now the question is that why the GA tags are announced? What is the advantage of allotting GA tag to any particular item?
What is the place of origin of that thing?
You are trying to protect the product. At the same time, you are trying to protect the rich culture heritage. At the same time, the raw materials which are used in the making of that particular thing for next generations. Apart from that one, you are trying to increase the economic condition of that particular region. Right. So that is the reason why the GA tags are allotted. At the same time, once a GA tag is allotted, it is applicable for almost how many years? It is for 10 years. Now one question is that GA tags no announce chesedi evaru? Which ministry is responsible for allotting or else announcing the GA tags? The Ministry of Trade and Commerce. That is one particular ministry which announces the GA tags each and every particular year. Then the seventh unit here, biotechnology. So in the field of biotechnology, we discuss about the number of methods or else which are related to the case of gene therapy, or else the case of what is meant by gene therapy, stem cell therapy, at the same time CAR T cell therapy. Apart from that one, the different diseases, the viruses which are responsible for various diseases across today as of today's date. Now heard about this one these days? Sickle cell disease. Sickle cell disease, this one. Heard about this, or else you talk about the case of Kala Azar. So the moment you're talking about the case of Kala Azar, it is prevalent only in few states in India. Right? One is the case of Bihar, other one is the case of Jharkhand, other one is the case of parts of UP, West Bengal. Are they connected? Parts of UP, Bihar, Jharkhand, West Bengal. These particular states of India. At the same time, Kala Azar cases, they are found in Nepal and then again in Bangladesh. Mari ee 6 regions connect cheyocha. Nepal is connected to UP. UP is connected to the case of Bihar. Bihar connected to Jharkhand. Jharkhand connected to West Bengal. West Bengal to Bangladesh. Now this is the belt. This is the reason wherein you find this particular Kala Azar cases in India. And Kala Azar karanam enti annappudu one particular insect which is known as sand fly ani antam. Now this is one thing which is responsible for Kala Azar. ఈ మస్కిటో సైజ్ ఎంత ఉంటుంది అంటే నార్మల్గా మన చుట్టూ ఉన్న మస్కిటో సైజ్లో దీని సైజు 1/4 ఉంటుంది. మన చుట్టూ ఉండే దోమలు ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో వాటిలో ఇది 1/4 ఉంటుంది. అంటే ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ మనం ఇలా ఫాస్ట్గా నడుస్తున్నాం, మీద పనిలో ఉన్నాం, ఆ దోమ కనిపించవచ్చు కనిపించకపోవచ్చు. ఎందుకంటే 1/4 ఉంది కాబట్టి. ఏదైనా యాక్టివిటీలో ఉన్నప్పుడు ఆ దోమ కనిపించకపోవచ్చు. బట్ థింగ్ ఇస్ దట్ ఇట్ ఈస్ రెస్పాన్సిబుల్ ఫర్ వన్ ఆఫ్ ద డేంజరస్ డిసీజెస్ విచ్ ఇస్ కాలింగ్ ఇట్ యాజ్ Kala Azar. So Kala Azar, at the same time the case of sickle cell anemia ani antam, sickle cell disease ani antam. At the same time you're talking about the case of hepatitis A, B, C, D, E. At the same time tuberculosis. Apart from that one, you're talking about the case of NTDs, neglected tropical diseases కొన్ని ఉన్నాయి. Now for example, dengue, chikungunya. So first thing, tropical disease ante enti? So any particular disease which is found in the tropical regions of the world. For example, you're talking about the case of Africa. At the same time, you're talking about the case of the South Asian nations, wherein the temperatures are very much high. At the same time, the diseases which are prevalent only to these particular regions, we are calling them as the tropical diseases. And unfortunately, there are many number of diseases which are neglected in these particular regions. Enduku ani annappudu, these diseases, they are prevalent only in Africa and South Asian nations. Apart from that one, their number is also very, very less. చాలా తక్కువ మంది ఎఫెక్ట్ అవుతూ ఉంటారు. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్, ఇన్ సమ్ రీజియన్స్ యూ ఫైండ్ ద కిడ్స్ సఫరింగ్ ఫ్రమ్ దిస్ మౌత్ స్ప్లిట్ అవుతూ ఉంటారు. ఈ ఇప్పటిలో కార్నర్స్లు ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో ఇవి స్ప్లిట్ అవుతూ ఉంటాయి. సో కారణం ఏంటి అని అన్నప్పుడు you talk about the case of a neglected tropical disease. And unfortunately, for those particular neglected diseases, you don't have any particular vaccination, you don't have even a proper medication for those particular diseases. So that is what we discuss here. And then finally, you talk about the case of here, the family health programs and immunization programs. So for example, you're talking about the case of Indradhanush 4.0, 5.0. Apart from that one, universal immunization programs. At the same time, the different types of vaccination programs that have been implemented across the nation. And finally, any particular thing which is related to the miscellaneous topics related to the case of current issues. So for example, you're talking about the case of the development of any particular technology, the development of any particular websites, or as a case of mobile applications for any particular thing related to the field of science, or as a case of technology. Now, this is the syllabus that you have for the preliminary examination that you're supposed to. Right? Mari, the moment you're talking about the case of mains part, Mari mains lo science and technology chuste, the number of questions, I've been that previous, right? So the number of questions in UPSC mains from science and technology, on an average, you can say around 3 to 4 questions each and every particular year. You are having around 3 to 4 questions from science and technology every year. This is related to the case of mains sambandhinchindi. And apart from that one, but in case of mains, what is the syllabus? Only 3 topics. Prelims lo ఉన్నాయి 9 topics. Mains లో ఉన్నాయి 3 topics. కానీ ఈ 3 topics చూస్తే మొత్తం 9 కవర్ అవుతాయి.